Enlarge the pull of the Force is strong with things like an impeccably rendered Millennium Falcon. I mean, gosh, that's pretty. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 can't paint over most of its failings. I've tried to give the new video game Star Wars Battlefront 2 a fair shake, and I tried to decipher through 3 types of fandom at that. I really dig Star Wars, and I've generally appreciated when the series has expanded its universe in video game form. I'm a big fan of DICE as a creator of high-polished, massively multiplayer online shooters. And I thought 2015's reboot of the Star Wars Battlefront game series was perfectly satisfactory as an accessible online action game. I kept all of these optimistic angles in mind as I booted the new game, and as I used my lightsaber of fandom to try to carve through its confusing economies. But that has been scariff massacre levels of difficult. Battlefront 2 ultimately lands as an adequate but forgettable combination of Polish bombast and been-there-done-that shooter tropes. Even after EA's last-minute about-face, little about the total package makes me eager to recommend it to anybody looking for a family-friendly blaster, a Star Wars-worthy story, or a month-after-month dive into online team combat. One step forward, how many steps back? A breakdown of the multiplayer modes that ship with BFII. 11 maps ship for the standard 40-player mode, and while they are visually stunning, they pale compared to the design mastery of DICE's Battlefield 1. The game's Endor battleground is one of its best, in terms of designs, paths, and tactical possibilities. HDR effects are used to incredible effect in a few of the levels, which this image cannot come close to replicating since it renders to SDR color range on typical phones and computer displays. In addition to multiplayer, you can also dive into arcade skirmishes by yourself or with a friend in split screen. Play these modes offline, however, and you aren't rewarded the game's credits currency. What's worse is, you also get dinged for playing arcade mode too much in a 12-hour period. It only took me 6 arcade matches to get this warning. It's ridiculous stuff. Why else would I play arcade mode? It doesn't earn XP, which itself barely unlocks anything in the game. One big issue at launch: it's very hard to tell how your in-game performance effects pay out of any of the game's confusing currencies. What does your performance mean to either a XP or credits? I see no obvious correlation between this performance and the credits I earned. None. The first problem: Battlefront 2 is the rare sequel that feels less confident as an online shooter than its predecessor. Much of what applied to BF1 returns in BFII, at least on a macro level. When playing online, you jump into team-based combat that resembles a slightly simplified version of DICE's Battlefield I. The primary multiplayer mode, Galactic Assault, is a 20-on-20 asymmetric team fight that resembles Battlefield's Conquest mode, in that one side tries to take over various control points while the other side defends them. If the attackers take over enough nodes, then the combat map expands, defenders retreat, and attackers try again with a new series of points until they overcome. If the attackers die too many times, however, the defenders win. This is represented by a number of lives pool or shared among all squad mates, good and noob alike. You and your squad mates do all of this while the best Star Wars trappings light up and explode around you. DICE's Frostbite engine looks even better in the sequel, and every battleground is bathed in rich geometric detail and gorgeous lighting effects. Endor's thick forests, Naboo's gilded palace, and Mos Eisley's sand-swept city have never looked better in video game form. They are all draped in convincing blaster fire, a Star Wars caliber orchestral score, and perfectly tolerable AI squadmate chatter. Though 11 battlegrounds ship in the retail game, they are decidedly uneven, and none surpasses the instantly memorable combat worlds that shipped in 2016's Battlefield 1. The closest BFII comes to that quality is on Endor, which offers an ample number of combat paths through woods and fortifications alike, and on Hoth, which spreads battle stations across an epic, snow-covered valley. In the case of the latter, however, I was only able to play that map once as of press time, owing to the game's utter lack of a server browser. The inability to focus your gameplay attention on preferred maps will rankle anybody who tires of certain maps, particularly the death-filled corridors of Starkiller Base. Even when the maps rank up there with DICE's best, players must still contend with a shooting game that wants to have it all Battlefield-level scope with Star Wars-friendly accessibility. The result that has played out thus far in the game's early access periods, open to paying early access subscribers and the game's special edition owners, is a game with a serious lack of tactical combat that comes together in a fluid manner. One example: at every respawn, players land on the map in a group of 4, but BFII does a poor job communicating how those squads could or should work together beyond fight together for more battle points. Battle points BP build up throughout a given match and are spent solely within combat to temporarily access higher-level characters and vehicles. For instance, should squad mates defend or buff each other in specific ways, the few powers that dole out valuable assists like shields and leadership shouts give 0 rewards. It's also unclear during combat when those doubled bonuses actually accrue. And unlike Battlefield, BFII fighters can't have a leader point for a particular objective or zone and receive bonuses or boosts for focusing on it. The result: you quickly feel like a lone wolf out there, and the class-specific trappings lose importance. Without those organic nudges, the online game, in practice, melts down to murder hallways. This is, in part, because of some home-level designs that encourage boring, non-strategic play, but also because players rack up more BPs when they put bullets into the foes. BPs drive your ability to temporarily climb into an X-Wing, a TIE fighter, a walker, or the shoes of a legendary Star Wars character like Chewbacca, Yoda, Darth Maul, or Emperor Palpatine. Everybody wants to do that. In good news, the math on how long it takes to earn your way toward a superhero upgrade seems balanced enough, though it never feels that way when someone reaches that point before you and proves it by way of lightsaber murder. I should also mention an interesting new tweak for this sequel: a new reload system rewards perfectly timed taps with faster reloads and more ammo. However, I'm already finding that this is being exploited by players who empty the magazines shortly after respawning so that they can get more ammo when piling into an assault point. Also, star cards can be used to make this reload system easier to pull off, and you'll see my beef with that below. When players hop into a flying craft, either during specific BP-fueled moments on galactic assault maps during the dedicated ships-only starfighter assault mode, the feeling at first is nothing but awesome. DICE's Frostbite engine does a wonder with richly detailed spaceships, ridiculous draw distances, and probably not scientifically accurate lighting effects. The mode rarely surpasses that first blush wonder, however, with incredibly mild control and attack options for each ship. These just aren't satisfying dogfights beyond basic, solid arcade-level thrills. Evasive maneuvers like loop-de-loops are practically impossible, and your best hope is to unlock the correct evasion-minded star cards through the course of gameplay. Meanwhile, when you board a flying craft during galactic assault battles, the results are weird. You don't get any special flight-specific objectives while you're up there, and many of the ships have nothing in the way of ground-specific attacks or perks to help with the objectives on the ground. You're mostly up there trying to awkwardly hit ground targets with no radar system to help, and trading fire with enemies who made the same foolish BP purchase as you. Ultimately, BFII drops players into combat with little in the way of strong explanations or guides into how to maximize combat tactics and fun. There's really no good welcome to BFII path that breaks down how players can instantly get acquainted with the game's systems. A quick reminder about a bad economy in action in large. During one very slow mission, Han Solo overhears a few conversations. This one, about people bickering over how many credits a debtor should pay, feels way too on the nose after this week's loot box debacle. That's, in part, because of the game's damned star cards. As of press time, you have to slog through a lot of gameplay before you can come close to having a suitable number of star cards, which are required to do a few things. Star cards let you turn on buffs, how quickly your health regenerates, how powerful your standard weapons are, and pick out new abilities. They are also class and character specific, and since each of the game's 35 distinct character types has no less than 8 distinct star cards, and often well over a dozen, that's a lot of cards. The speed at which cards are doled out in the course of standard gameplay is agonizingly slow. You'll need to play 79 matches to earn enough of BFII's credits currency to afford the most expensive 4,000 credit loot boxes, which then contain a mix of unique star cards, credits, and crafting parts. I break down the game's pukey soup of currencies and other economical issues here, but we're already in bad news territory when I have to direct you to a freaking glossary to understand what's going on. You'll get roughly 2 new star cards in every loot box, which may or may not apply to a class you like. Sometimes, they apply to heroes that you haven't unlocked, who can be purchased directly for credits and cost anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000 credits. Those prices have come down from an original, I wanna meet EA's dealer price of 60,000 credits, which is good. What's less good is that the game's single-player campaign used to dole out more credits, and that amount has since dipped from 20,000 to 5,000, so the adjustment is actually a bit of a wash. This works out in a few crappy ways. The star cards don't just add significant boosts to players. They also have exponential impact on your mathematical potential due to how many star card slots you've unlocked and how many of those star cards you've upgraded. Star cards come in 4 tiers, and the numerical gap between Tier 1 and Tier 4 is monstrous. This sucks from a sheer gameplay perspective, in which you can expect a higher card player to do things like regenerate health faster and have wider grenade radii. But it also sucks from a welcome to BFII perspective, because average battles play out like an advertisement for the game you wish you were playing. As I've previously said, good multiplayer shooters with progression systems are at least kind enough to set new players somewhere near the mathematical maximum. You eventually unlock alternate styles and options, which typically keep the game fresh. But, in practice, BFII taunts players with a severe gap between 1 Tier 1 card and 3 near-max cards players. The result feels like showing up to a varsity high school football squad as a JV middle school player and being thrown into a game. But, you know, with familiar Star Wars characters, pew pew pew. Right, page 2. The first 4 images are taken from pre-rendered CGI sequences. All of the rest are in-game. Main protagonist Iden shows off her ain't having none of it face. You don't just get Han Solo in Battlefront 2. You get Han Swarthy. The in-game images begin, and, man, DICE knows how to make a compelling-looking game. The lighting and texture work is just as cool inside of military installations as they are in expansive outdoor scenes. In certain cases, in-game faces are incredibly detailed as well. Most of the time, they are not this nice. You can switch the camera to inside any spaceship as well. The adventure portion, sadly, is padded with a few home missions. The worst of these is when you have to use a lightsaber to swat at pesky little bugs. It reminds me of Daikatana in every bad way you could imagine. Other missions have you walk or fly very slowly so that you can hear so-so flavor text about whatever's going on. At least these slow slogs look stunning. Battlefront 2 doesn't block its campaign levels out with invisible walls. Instead, it arbitrarily tells you to turn around, which makes the games find all the hidden crates challenges an even bigger pain in the butt, since going off the beaten path usually results in these warning messages. Unlike the last game, BFII also ships with a bona fide single-player campaign. It is resoundingly okay. You primarily play as Iden Versio, a member of the Empire's brutal Inferno squad of ground and air combat specialists. Iden gets things done, and you meet her in the midst of an I-meant-to-get-caught infiltration of the rebellion set during the events of Return of the Jedi. Most of the game transpires after the second Death Star blows up, at which point Iden's commander, and, conveniently enough, father, sends her on a dubious mission of killing innocent people. How this really benefits the Empire's new come-from-behind plan, issued by Emperor Palpatine upon his death, is never quite made clear. Worse, Iden's rapid switch from lifelong believer in the Empire to whelp time to join the rebellion is as predictable as it is undercooked. The single-player mode has its fair share of average walk straight ahead and kill a bunch of people missions which could easily have been boosted by significant Star Wars caliber storytelling segments. The voice actors for both the Inferno Squad and the series superheroes are pretty darned good and certainly better than the likes of the last game's low-ron Han Solo impersonator, and they are fed perfectly fine dialogue. But the script mostly consists of incidental, reacting cowhats around chatter or shouts of what objective is next. We never receive a grounded explanation for how the game's biggest hero, Iden, turns her entire worldview around so rapidly. Her squad mate Del at least has a full mission tagging along with Luke Skywalker in which to have his perspective on the rebellion changed organically. However, his mission ranks down there with the opening of Day Katana as one of the worst shooter missions of all time, which ends with Luke having to awkwardly swipe his lightsaber at wave after wave of tiny, obnoxious insects. BFII's campaign suffers from missions that look like they could be awesome, with giant, gorgeous set pieces and an apparent cornucopia of paths to traverse. However, each mission plays out as if some producer yanked a bunch of gameplay features and tactics at the last minute. In particular, these all have apparent paths where stealth, sniping, and gadgets could have really fit in nicely. Pick off a bad guy here, set up some stormtrooper clearing traps there, and sneak carefully to a podium to grab a mounted turret over there. But stealth in BFII is 100% ineffective due to the fact that a single gunshot power-up sets off full-level sirens and alarms. If you do not walk perfectly behind a foe and take them out with zero other baddies nearby to notice, that's it for the stealth path. And with no other GoldenEye caliber gadgets handy, you're basically left with little other strategic course than finding a safe corner, shooting the first bad guy, and waiting for everyone else to run at you in a straight line. We ran into some weird bugs while playing the campaign. Sorry, Han. I also ran into some hilarious bugs in the campaign, particularly when my Xbox One X automatically went to sleep and was later awoken mid-mission. These cranked the game's animation speeds up roughly 400% and sent my heroes glitching either into the ground or floating into the sky. Update: we've now uploaded video proof of these glitches, see above. There's still a fine fanservice plot in this 5-hour romp, along with ridiculous levels of polish and a few tasty plot bits that tie together the original trilogy with the events of Episode 7. But underwhelming action and an obnoxious cliffhanger ending combine to make me regret playing this mode instead of watching someone else do so. One with the dark side. and DICE have responded to pre-release criticisms with promises to listen to the community and improve the game. They even pulled a last-minute no more real money move to save face, though the fact that EA says real money purchases will return is worrying. Even in light of the drastic change, the game's handlers are still way behind schedule. I don't look upon the time I've spent playing BFII and reminisce fondly. The game does not contribute anything significant, special, or even newbie-friendly to the crowded online shooter genre. I tremble at the thought of younger Star Wars fans getting caught up in a gameplay loop that favors economics over fun, which can still be poisonous without money, depending on how you view loot box mechanics' similarities to slot machines, but that part of BFII will only be worse should the real money economy issues return. If EA flattens the game's economy so that players start out on a more equal footing, then we may be onto something. Even then, there's still the issue of online combat that favors cheap BP gathering, lone wolf slogs, and boring tactics over either satisfying tactics or down on dirty arcade fun. I will keep my eyes on the game for any major, tide-turning changes that could redeem the game's solid, glossy bits. Until then, EA's talk is cheap, and its product feels even cheaper. Avoid Star Wars Battlefront 2. The good DICE combines its Frostbite engine and its visual design chops to make the most beautiful Star Wars game yet. Fanservice nuggets, solid acting make the plot's best bits must-see stuff for any series fan. The bad thunk. That's the sound of a giant binder landing on a table to explain the game's cockamamie economy at launch. Star cards, as they currently function, prevent new players from learning and appreciating high-level gameplay systems. Flying segments thrill at first blush but continue to lack enough tactical or control options. Our pre-release tests revealed some hilarious visual bugs while testing on Xbox One X. The fact that half-cooked, trying to please everybody combat will still be there, even if EA fixes the game's economy issues. Verdict: avoid.